Snow fell in soft, glowing sheets that morning, the kind that made the world look peaceful even when a storm brewed quietly inside a human heart. Rowan Hale sat stiffly on the park bench, jaw clenched, staring at nothing while his young son, Milo, tugged at his coat with restless energy. The winter sun cast long pale rays across the silent park, but Rowan felt none of its warmth. His heart had been locked in ice for far too long. It had been that way since the day Helena walked out, leaving behind shadows where laughter once lived. Now this was supposed to be a simple visit, a chance meeting arranged by her after months of silence, but nothing about it felt simple. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if the ground would hold or give way beneath him. If you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Rowan tried to steady his breath as he watched Milo shuffle through the snow, holding tightly to a small, worn teddy bear. It was the one thing that never left the boy's side. Funny, Rowan thought, how a child could find comfort in something so small while grown adults held on to the cold, heavy armor of resentment. Helena had chosen this park, their old meeting place from years ago, when everything was different. He wasn't sure why. Maybe she wanted familiar ground. Maybe she thought nostalgia would soften the jagged tension between them. When he saw her walking toward them, wrapped in a beige coat with snow settling in her hair, Rowan felt every muscle in his body tense. She looked calmer than he felt, but not untouched by pain. Helena paused a few feet away, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, the winter sunlight casting a soft halo around her. Milo froze, clutching his teddy tighter. The boy hadn't seen her in months, and Rowan worried what that absence might have carved into him. He had tried so hard to shield Milo from the storm and Helena had been drowning in, but children sensed everything. Sometimes even more than adults. Helena opened her mouth slightly, as though searching for words, but nothing came. The silence between them felt like a fragile glass pane that could shatter with one wrong move. Rowan waited, not trusting his voice. It was Milo who broke the stillness. Milo, with his innocent heart and snow-speckled hair. He stepped forward slowly, shoes crunching in the frosty ground, eyes wide but hopeful. Then, in the simplest, purest gesture, he lifted his teddy bear with both hands and held it out toward her, as if offering a peace treaty, as if offering his whole heart. Rowan felt something shift inside him the instant Milo raised that little toy. Something warm pushed against the ice he had been carrying for too long. He wanted to speak, to reach for his son, but even his breath seemed caught in his chest. Helena blinked, startled, and for a moment she looked as though she might break. But instead of crying, she did something far more powerful. She knelt down in the snow, her eyes level with Milo's, and gently took the teddy bear into her hands. Then she pressed it to her chest with trembling fingers, as if the small, soft toy carried more forgiveness and affection than she felt she deserved. It was the first time Rowan had seen her express raw emotion in months. Something unspoken, something healing, passed between the three of them then. Rowan felt his frozen heart begin, just barely, to melt. Days before this moment, life had been a storm. Rowan had been drowning in work, in resentment, in the belief that Helena had given up too easily. Helena had felt unheard, unseen, stretched between motherhood and her own fading sense of identity. They had both been hurting. But when pain has no place to go, it lashes out. And theirs had torn their family apart. Now, in the daylight of a winter morning, Rowan realized how much damage silence had done. He had mistaken distance for strength, pride for protection. Helena had mistaken leaving for the only way to make them both see the fractures that needed healing, and Milo had been the quiet casualty of their stubbornness. Rowan exhaled, the breath fogging the air, and stood from the bench. Snowflakes caught on his coat as he slowly approached Helena and Milo. He didn't know what he was going to say. He didn't have a speech prepared. He only felt a small, brave spark in his chest, an urge to thaw the coldness that had ruled his life. He rested a hand on Milo's shoulder, the boy leaning instinctively into his side. Helena rose, holding the teddy bear close before returning it gently into Milo's waiting arms. They stood there for a long moment, not as the broken family they had become, but as the hopeful one they once were. Rowan didn't need to touch Helena to feel the warmth radiating from the small steps she was taking. He noticed how her eyes softened, how she kept glancing at Milo with regret, but also renewed tenderness. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't a solution, but it was a beginning. And sometimes a beginning was enough. As they walked slowly along the snow-dusted path, the sun rose higher, filling the park with soft golden light. Children played in the distance, their laughter echoing like distant bells. Rowan listened closely, realizing he couldn't remember the last time he'd actually noticed simple sounds like that. Maybe healing began when you paid attention to the small things again. They didn't talk much. Words, they all seemed to know, were delicate right now. But Helena asked how Milo had been spending his mornings, and Rowan answered without bitterness. He asked if she was doing better, and she gave a small, honest nod. They were tiny steps, hesitant, fragile, hopeful, and Rowan found that his heart warmed a little more with each one. For Milo, this single morning meant the world. He held his teddy close, skipping ahead at times and then doubling back to squeeze both their hands, unaware that his innocence was stitching the torn edges of two adults' hearts back together. Rowan saw how happy the boy looked, and it pained him to think how easily life's burdens could steal joy away from a child. Yet today, Milo glowed like sunlight on the snow. When Rowan glanced at Helena again, he saw her smiling softly at Milo, and for the first time in months, he allowed himself to imagine a future that wasn't shaped by separation but by second chances, whatever form they might take. Not necessarily a return to what they once were, but something stronger, shaped by understanding and humility. Rowan wasn't naive. He knew one morning wouldn't erase the past. It would take time, patience, and an openness neither of them had shown before. But as he watched Helena laugh gently when Milo tripped on a patch of snow and scrambled up again, he realized how deeply he had missed her warmth, how deeply he had missed them, together. Later that afternoon, when it was time to part ways, Rowan felt something unexpected. Hope. Helena hesitated before leaving, then placed a gloved hand briefly on his arm. It was a small touch, almost weightless, but it sent a wave of warmth through him. She whispered that she wanted to try, slowly, carefully, to rebuild what had been broken, not for the sake of pretending everything was perfect, but for the sake of truth, healing, and Milo's future. Rowan nodded, unable to speak for fear his voice would crack open with emotion. He watched her walk away, feeling the winter sun settle on his shoulders like a quiet blessing. Milo squeezed his teddy and looked up, eyes shining, as if sensing something important had happened even if he didn't yet understand. Rowan lifted him into his arms, holding him close. As they left the park, Rowan felt the last heavy remnants of ice inside him beginning to melt. Not entirely gone, but cracking, making room for warmth, for forgiveness, for the fragile beauty of second chances. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices. Your support helps us continue bringing meaningful stories to you. Special request, comment below with a heart emoji if you believe healing can begin with even the smallest act of kindness.